Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a very basic beginner-friendly rhinestone application using the honeycomb method. I'll also show you how to add in a name or a logo. I had so much fun creating this. You're going to find all these products down below in the description box. You might even find some discount codes for you there as well. So that's enough chit chat for me. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first things first, we want to prep our cup. I'm using a 10-ounce stubby from Craft Haven today, which is perfect for this project because it has nice straight sides, which is what we're looking for when we're going to do this type of application. I'm going to tape off the bottom of my tumbler with some electrical tape, run it through my edge trimmer. That's going to give us a nice, straight, crispy line. And then I'll tape off the remainder of the bottom with just some thicker painter's tape. Once we have the bottom all taped off, I'm going to take my 120 grit sanding block and I'm going to sand all the way around the outside of my tumbler here. We really want to rough this up well so we give the paint and the rhinestones something good to adhere to. Once I'm done with sanding, I'm going to clean this up with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, and now we're ready to paint our base coat. The color I'm using today is French Lilac. I like these Rust-Oleum paints for projects like this because they have the primer built in. If your spray paint doesn't have a primer built in, I would recommend getting a primer paint down first, which is usually like a white matte coat. But this one works perfect. I only did one coat and got fantastic coverage. And now we're ready to start blinging. So I'm going to set this project aside. I started this in my mentorship group. It's going to take me forever. It's a 40-ounce, huge Stanley cup, but it's looking so cute. Those are my transparent AB stones. I'm going to use the large cup chuck today from the Bowen. This is the Bling Queen stand from the Bowen. This saves my neck with these rhinestone projects. Absolutely love it. Makes my job so much easier. And we're just going to pop our cup on. The rhinestones we're going to be using today are my Flynn stones. We've got sizes SS3, SS6, SS10, 12, 16, and SS20. One pack of each. We probably won't even use all of these, but we will be using a lot of the SS20s. In fact, it took one whole pack of SS20s for this project. And the reason that we need all the different sizes is because we're going to have to fill in into some smaller gaps later on. I'm going to remove that tape that we had along the bottom, and I want to apply my logo first. I want the logo to be featured in the center front of the cup, and I already cut this using just some permanent Oracal 651 vinyl. Before I transferred it onto my cup, I tried to take some of the sticky off on my transfer tape so I don't accidentally pull up any of this paint. But we shouldn't have really any of the paint pull up if we did a nice solid coat. It's fully dried, which for me took about a half hour, and we also prepped the surface before painting. I'm using the excess of transfer tape to anchor my decal while I measure to make sure everything's lined up and even, and then I'm going to apply this like I normally would using the hinge method. Now I'm going to start on my first row of rhinestones. I've got my syringe filled with some liquid fusion glue. This is my favorite to use. I will have both the syringes and the glue linked down below in the description box. And we're just going to place a nice thin line of glue along the top of the rim there, about 2 inches long, and start laying my stones one after another, trying to place them as straight as I can. Once I fill that first row of glue up, I'm going to put my cup down against the surface of my table here and press the stones down against the edge of the cup so that the table helps line them up straight. I hope that makes sense. And I just do this periodically while I'm laying section by section. Keep in mind, depending on like the width of your cup, your stones may not all come to meet up at the very end because of like spacing and stuff. So if you have to take one stone out and space them a little bit, that's why it helps to work quickly on this first row in case you have to maneuver some things around to get everything to fit evenly. But the goal here is, number one, that this row is completely straight, perfectly lined up along that top rim. And also, if you do have to do a little bit of spacing, that it's done as evenly as possible so that those stones all have even straight distribution. This first line is going to set the tone for the rest of our project. So we really want to take our time and make sure that this is done right. If we don't, you're definitely going to see that in the wash as you complete the rest of your lines later on down the line. It's going to look a little wonky. So again, take your time, make sure you get this top row perfectly straight. And after I get the top row done, I let it dry for like 10 to 15 minutes before I did anything more, because I did not want to disturb that first row. And I actually let it dry against the table like that, so that if any of them did shift, they're shifting down into that straight line lined up along the top rim. Now that we're done with that top rim, we're going to start on our second row. And you're going to apply the second row just like you applied the first row. This time you're going to line up each stone in between the space where the two above it meet, if that makes sense. So they're all going to kind of nestle in together. And the goal here is so that if you were to look at a few rows at a time, you'll be able to identify the honeycomb shape between like the few of those stones. I hope that makes sense. You'll see what I mean later on as we get further down the line. But you'll see here that I'm just placing the next stone in between the two above it. And you want to get those as centered as possible. You can almost kind of feel it nestle into that sweet spot. It really is just like a lot of this. It's kind of boring. I mean, I don't know how I would fill like a whole tutorial just showing you guys this stone after stone. But I will tell you, if you're a beginner and your first cup was like a scatter method and you're moving into this, it is so much easier. You're going to be amazed at just how fast you can breeze through this. Like I said earlier, as long as you get that front row down, all subsequent rows are going to just fall into place really easily. Sometimes you might find that a stone nestles in a little tighter. Some will have a little more wiggle room. That's okay. Just trust the process, do the best you can, and just try to keep an eye on your alignment. Once we get close to this logo here, I'm just going to bring the next stone in line as close to the decal as I possibly can without overlapping the decal in any kind of way. All right, we will fill in those gaps later with smaller stones. I would have stoned the label first, or my decal first, but I didn't have black stones at my house. I sell rhinestones and I didn't even have what I needed for this. So I didn't start on that until the next day. So I just got as close to the decal as I could. The reason I'd want to do the logo first with the black stones was so that I knew just how close to the decal I could really get. But whatever, 6 1, half dozen the other, as I always say, and it worked out just fine doing it this way anyways. Once you get to the spot where you have to start filling in those gaps, I just fit whatever size stone I had that was the largest that would fill the most space, if that makes sense. And I didn't fill any additional space ahead of time. Like I didn't assume where the next gap would fall until I finished my next row, just the regular SS20 rows with the honeycomb pattern. I think this process would be, I don't know if it would be easier or harder if I had just like a regular name instead of a whole huge circle right smack dab in the middle of this. I think maybe a name would probably be harder because you have to really kind of get in there. But the goal here is to have that honeycomb SS20 pattern as close to the name or logo decal as possible, and then fill with any small stones after the fact closest to, so it's not as noticeable that we have, that large space between where the pattern ends and where the name starts. Here I am on day 2. I'm about 2 hours of hands-on time into this tumbler. Not bad. And I'm going to start on rhinestoning our logo decal. So just applying a thin line of the glue with my syringe, I'm going to put in whatever sizes I'm able to fit into that part of the decal. We want our stones to come just to the edge of the line of that vinyl, or if not, to the very inside. We just don't want the rhinestones to overlap over that vinyl decal because it's going to make for a much more cleaner and finished look. I'm using sizes SS3 through SS12 to create this. You can do this with one of our multi-size packs. They're great for that as it includes all the sizes you would need. I would say though, I think I needed a little more SS3s for this than what's included with my multi-size pack. So you might want to grab an extra one of those if you have, you know, like a larger name decal or something. But it was pretty easy to do. You just want to make sure they're as lined up as well as possible. And then again, once I got all the black stones laid down on the decal, I filled in the gaps around it. So I knew exactly how much space I had to fill in those gaps. Then I moved on to filling in the spaces within that logo decal, starting first with the inside of the letters. Then I used my cup measuring tool that I got from Craft Haven to try to line up the rows of stones inside the circle logo so they matched the rows on the outside. They don't necessarily have to fall in line with the pattern, but just roundabouts in line. So again, will make for a much more cleaner, fresher look. This was without a doubt the most challenging part, and I did use all sizes between SS3 to SS20 within the inside of the circle logo. This definitely was the most challenging part of this tumbler. It took a solid hour to complete that part. But after that, it was smooth sailing. So moved on to completing my rows. And again, once I got to below the logo, I just filled in the gaps around it and then carried on with my row once we got below it. Here we are finally at the last row of stones. I realized that on this last row, the paint would be peeking down below the last row of stones, and I wanted to clean that up really quick. So I just got a paper towel and some acetone and cleaned up the edge of that paint so it wouldn't peek below this last row of stones. And this was the last one. So super satisfying to come to the end of this. This project was quick and easy as far as rhinestone cups go. I think I had less than 4 hours of hands-on time. But anyway, once we complete this last row, I let it dry for a couple hours, and then I moved on to the glitter butt. To make our glitter butt, I'm just going to paint in this little bottom well of our tumbler here. These tumblers already come like this. I don't have to alter them in any way. And I'm just going to get a nice thin coat of this lilac purple down. And then as soon as this dries, I'm going to mix about 10 milliliters of UV resin with some glitter. I forgot what the name of this glitter is called, but I will have it listed down in the description box. And we're going to pour probably not all of that mixture, but most of it into our little well. And then I will spread it out carefully to the edges with my stir stick here. Once it's all spread out evenly, I like to let it settle for a couple minutes before putting it under my UV light for a couple minutes to cure. Once that's dry, it's going to look something like this. Super cute. And then I let this dry for a couple more days before I washed all the wax from the wax pencil off in my sink, just using a Scrub Daddy sponge, some power wash, washed it up, shined it up really good, dried it off with a microfiber cloth, and this is the final result. I am so proud of myself. I love how this turned out. Let me know what you guys thought about this in the comments, and if you like my video, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.